Hello, my name is Christopher Fletcher, and welcome to my Interpersonal Communication Project. Next slide. Introduction. Stewart describes communication as the continuous complex of collaborative process of verbal and nonverbal meaning making. Interpersonal communication is a form of communication which is characterized by the involved parties contacting each other as persons. Next slide. My overarching goals. My overarching goals are: one, to become a more aggressive and decisive leader, to develop a high level of adaptability towards changes, and also to become more openly enthusiastic and outgoing. Next slide. Enlarging the conversation as it relates to my overarching goals. Peterson suggests that good listening enhances cooperative decision making, and everyday decision making includes 3 steps: sharing, negotiating, and closing. Stewart also advises people that are faced with difficult challenges to ask themselves, what can I help to happen next? Which is also referred to as nexting. Strategic self-presentation consists of efforts to shape others' impressions in specific ways in order to gain influence, power, sympathy, or approval. Next slide. Background influences. I grew up in a poor community in Montgomery, Alabama, where consistent criminal activity was the norm, but I always wanted more out of life than what my environment offered. I would always encourage my mother to seek a better job so that we could move away from my environment. Now, I did not have a close relationship with my mother, and I didn't meet my father until I was 26 years old. Now, I would find ways to obtain the things that I needed rather than place financial burdens on my mother out of consideration. Now, I've always disliked seeing other people mistreated. And in school, I had a tendency to defend kids that were easy targets for bullies. I was a very shy child, and I always encouraged peace until someone revealed the aggressive side of my personality. Next slide. My background influences. The positives are they made me law-abiding, merciful, hardworking, and persistent. The negative side, I was not very talkative, not sociable, not entertaining, and not trusting. My behavior blend. My DISC personality type and blend is CS and CSD. Now, the positive influences in my behavior blend are I'm analytical, I'm contemplative, dependable, outspoken, and competent. Now, these traits help me to approach the conversation with a thoughtful resolve for continuous improvement. Next slide. The negative influences in my behavior blend are I'm not outgoing, I'm not a risk taker, not very creative, and also not very dynamic. Now, these traits can negatively affect the conversation by failing to present myself in a persuading or confident manner that would invoke trust from others. Next slide. The potential barriers that I have. One is paralysis of analysis. My plan to overcome this is to apply a creative problem-solving strategy. Now, one, understand the problem, select a goal, select data, or collect data, and refine the problem. Number 2, generate ideas. And number 3, plan for action. Next slide. More potential barriers. Ritual listening. I plan to apply more mindful listening and start listening at level 1. I will avoid preparing a response before the talker has finished. Next slide. Noise pollution. Internal noise pollution relates to the things people do internally to build barriers that prevent them from listening effectively. External noise pollution relates to the physical barriers in our surroundings that prevents effective listening. Next slide. Internal noise pollution. As that relates to me, there's stress, fatigue, the nearness to the end of the workday, the preoccupation with personal problems, and also my personal beliefs and values. The solution is the one that I lean on all the time, and it's the serenity prayer. God grant us the serenity to accept the things we cannot change, courage to change the things we can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Next slide. External noise pollution. Two-way radio communication at work. Deadlines at work. The room temperature. And also loud, consistent noise, specifically car horns blowing pretty much the entire time I'm at work. Solution. I don't have control over all of my external barriers. Therefore, I must adapt to my surroundings while maintaining focus on the task at hand. Next slide. Plan of action. Adaptability. My plan of action is to explore how changes will help me and my organization reach its goals. Also adopting what here is referred to as the change resources adaptation model. Next slide. Plan of action continued. Also, my plan of action for becoming more outgoing is to smile a lot and make eye contact, ask questions, and be generally interested in people. Work on self-esteem and confidence, give compliments, and also practice these patterns on a daily basis. Next slide. Another one of my plan of actions is related to becoming a more decisive leader. I plan to seek input from others more, ask more questions, and also finally to decide, to come to a conclusion and proceed. If you stand tall and show that you can take the heat, you may not gain the points for the decision, but you will gain respect for your convictions. Next slide. And these are my references. And this concludes my presentation for Internal Communication Project. Thank you.